Hey guys, I'm going to do this video on debunking JaclynGlenn, and I want you guys to comment below her video is this video. This video will be a response to it. And Jaclyn, if you end up seeing this video, I know I don't have a big channel, but hopefully if you watch it, you're going to see I know what I'm talking about, and you see I'm not just some idiotic. I don't mean prideful, but you see I know what I'm talking about. And that would be a good discussion, a good challenge to you. So anybody that sees this video in the future, I want you to comment below her videos and try to get her attention with this video. And I pray that this edifies people. I really pray that Jaclyn, that me and you can talk. Just so you know, of course by the picture I can seem like I'm young. I'm 19 years old, and so I'm not that. So just so you get a background of me, I've been a Christian for like 2 years, and it'll be 3 years like soon. So I was raised in a professing Christian, fake Christian home, religious Christian. And basically, my testimony is that I can be part of it. I got married to a minister of God, which I'm not going to name his name, and I saw truth, and I ended up getting born again. And I didn't get baptized in every prayer. I mean, I got I got the Holy Ghost, the real Holy Ghost. That's the fake religious spirit that the professing Christians claim to have, but the real Holy Ghost. In December 2015, and months down the road, I wasn't even supposed to walk or talk when I was a baby. I was born dead, but I was diagnosed with cerebral palsy and scoliosis. Scoliosis wasn't that bad, but so months down the road, noticed 4 years ago, could barely walk a block in Chicago or New Orleans. I would quickly fall. My legs would crap. My legs would collapse, and I would collapse in the middle of the road, basically, in like New Orleans. So I was not in good shape. But months down the road of being born again, and trust me, my cerebral palsy, my strings were so tight that I even had surgery. I even had my it's like right in the middle of your, strings or ligaments or whatever it's called. I don't know. I had them tight. I had them loosened. So I was not in good shape. Had scoliosis, back pain. But months down the road, after being born again, after becoming not religious, but actually changed by God, I can go into my testimony and go ahead and watch my testimony from the channel. Months down the road, I was running, jumping, walking without pain. And I'm not in perfect shape perfectly, but I can walk without pain. I can stand without pain. I can have basically more normal activity. I can run without collapsing. I can walk like 3 or 4 blocks, 3 or 4 miles without collapsing. I can enjoy taking walks. Now, to be honest, the first time, but I haven't, not I'm saying I'm perfect, but the first time I walked like 3 or 4 miles, I wasn't, in good shape. But notice that the first time I really walked that much. I haven't walked that much for a while because I've been in this house. So, but after that, I've walked 3 or 4 miles, fine. So that's but without that issue, they would have walked like some miles without the issue. So yeah, so if you want evidence for I'm not just some religious Christian that was raised Christian, but I was somebody who got changed by God, you be humble about it. and I pray God help me. That's part of my testimony. I'm just asking God to humble my heart because I want to be humble when I do this video. So let's get into it. Hopefully, I'm gonna get into it. And any atheist that actually comes on here and sees this video, see it live, and wants to confront me about what I say, you can. No. And not that I'm just so arrogant or prideful, is that I'm gonna have to add it. I'm gonna edit that part out. But as I said, that replied, and so, but hopefully, I really want to do. I want to do this out of pure motive.
Hey guys, so today I'm going to go through Ray Comfort's idiotic video, Evolution.
Here we go, guys.
Versus God and dispute every single point. So just to give you an idea of who we're talking about, Ray Comfort is the guy known as the Banana Man, and the reason for that is because he tried to argue that a banana is evidence of God because it's shaped so perfectly to fit in our hand. But he didn't realize how much it had actually been modified by people. So then he had to go back and say, I didn't realize that the banana had been so modified by hybridization, but God gave people the ability to do so, so it's still evidence for God. So that should give you an idea of the kind of guy I'm dealing with. Now, he has this copyright disclaimer at the beginning of his video, and normally I wouldn't pay attention to something like this, and I wouldn't care, but I've talked to a few people, and they said that he would probably try to come back for me to get it taken down. And the thing about that is that YouTube sometimes doesn't really care if a problem comes up. they'll just side with the person who's filing the claim and take the video down, and I put way too much into this to have that happen, and I don't want to let Ray Comfort have that little victory, so I'm just going to reference the video at different points. I'll give you time markers. If you want to look it up, you don't have to, because I'm going to explain it, and to be honest, it's really hard to watch this video because it's really frustrating because it's so stupid, so I'm going to save you the trouble of not having to do that, but if you want to, I'll leave a link to his video in the description, and like I said, I'll be leaving time markers. So he starts off with the Dawkins quote that says, "Faith is the great cop-out, the great excuse to evade the need to think and evaluate evidence." So that's actually part of the theme of his entire video. He tries to go through and say that evolution is not science-based, it's not real.
No. Faith, the difference between, well, let's define biblical Christian faith versus a belief without evidence. Like many people just believe. They believe that Jesus died for them. They believe that they're saved without any evidence in their life. They just believe it. That is not biblical faith. The word in the Greek for faith in the Bible is pistis, which means to trust in. And logically, I would at least know you exist or know or have a knowing and awareness before I trust in somebody. I would at least know I would at least have a knowing of Christ of Jesus before I trust in him. So, no. It's like this. And plus, the word believe in the Bible is not believe. It's pisteuo, which means to be persuaded. And if I'm persuaded, don't I see evidence, whether spiritual, supernatural evidence, or logical evidence? So it means to be persuaded of. It doesn't mean to believe. The Bible doesn't teach to believe. Now we say, well, Hebrews says, faith is the evidence of things hoped for and the things not seen. Well, what is that? What's the context of it? Let me give you an example. I have to trust. I know he's real. Okay, I know the truth, right? I know the truth. But let's say I have to put my trust in him. You can know someone is real. You can know your mom is right there, and you can know your dad's right there. He's strong. He'll protect you. But then you still have to ignore the temptation of fear and put your trust in him. So there's still a trusting. Like, you can have a parachute, but you have to hope it's not a dud. You have to hope you'll be able to do it right and not fall to your death. And you have to hope and you trust in it that it will work. But you know the parachute is real. So faith in this way, hey, let's say like I have to trust that God's going to heal me or deliver me. It doesn't mean I don't know he's real. It doesn't mean I don't know that deliverance is true or healing is true. But I must trust that God will give what I know is available to me. You understand? It's not belief without evidence. That's not what the Bible teaches. That's not what Hebrews is saying right there. Even if you know someone is really, you still gotta hope in them and trust in them. Hope in the availability, trust in the availability. You understand? Okay, let's continue.
Reason-based, it's completely faith-based. But then he always goes on to say, but God is, you just look around. Everything you see is evidence of God, not science for evolution. No.
The word science means knowledge. Now the question in this video, I'm not gonna attack what she said. I'm not gonna use the argument where I don't see evidence of evolution, thus it's not real. Thus it's not real. I'm gonna use the argument that evolution on a philosophical basis cannot be true. And even if it's true, we can't know if it's true. I'm going to use a logical. I'm not going to use the argument of science or begging the question. I'm going to use a logical case why evolution cannot be true.
All of it is just, the man in the sky. So about 44 seconds, he introduced
Jesus Christ, God is not a man in the sky. He's not a man in the sky. He's in the spiritual realm, and he's a spirit. He's masculine. Who said he's a man? We know he's masculine, but he's not a man. So get all the sky daddy, all the allegations against God are not even true. They're just people mocking and playing. They're just mocking. They're not even making logical or or truthful, fair attacks, or just making the mocking out of ignorance. The Father is not a sky daddy. And let's say even if he has a personality as a father, is that something to make fun of? If someone has if a God has a personality of a father, something to make fun of? Or is that more beautiful? And that is very wonderful that he has a personality of a father and not just a tyrant ready to destroy you. But he actually cares about you. So that's more comforting than believing in like a Gnostic or pagan god with all that suffering and so on. Now, have all these suffering, have all these sinners that God toast. God doesn't love everybody literally. He loves them figuratively. He loves you in the sense he blesses you. He blesses you. He gives you truth. He gives you time to come to repentance. He loves you in figurative ways, but when he looks at you as a sinner, he sees you as disgusting. And it's not like he wants to cast you into hell, but your sight is so vulgar that eventually, as you begin to exhaust his grace, which is not all loving, he's not all loving. His very basis is love, which define what that is. Love goes on with truth. He loves righteousness. So love means self-sacrifice in this sense, not hippie emotional love, like you unify with wickedness. But he loves in the sense he gives a perfect justice that we know is necessary. We know that is a factor. He loves in the sense he's holy. He doesn't unify with wickedness or suffering. He loves in the sense of truthfulness. He's long-suffering, gentle, of course, but he loves in the sense of gives the essences and the substances of realities like justice, holiness, and long-suffering, in which we know all factors, and we know all evidence of true care. But he has to be just and eventually cast you into hell if you keep exalting his grace. He's not all merciful. He has mercy, but a lot of this, his mercy endures forever. The word olam in Hebrew, it doesn't only mean forever, it means for a time. His mercy endures forever. It's a figure of speech saying he's merciful. They say his mercy is beyond our comprehension. You're like you, Jaclyn. All your sin, the God has all these people reaching out to you, blessing you. That's God's love towards you. Doesn't mean he won't, if you keep resisting him, kill you and cast you into hell, because he has to. You sinned against an eternal God in the eternal realm. The Bible says sin is spiritual. The mind, the consciousness has been proven to be outside the brain. So your mind is not in your brain. You can make assumptions. You can say, well, if your brain is damaged, your emotions will be damaged. And that can be explained like this. The soul is the gas, right? The engine is the brain. If your engine is damaged, the engine won't be able to operate as well, or if at all. Same with if your brain is damaged, that connection line, that plug won't be able to plug at all. Like if you have a charger with the wires out, it's not able to really work as well, or if at all, it's like totally out and broke. You understand? That's the nature. That's how I explain the nature between the soul, the mind, the will, and the emotion, and the consciousness, and basically the operation, the control center of you, the operation of your awareness and your mind and all this, and the brain. Okay? Just like you, if you're spiritually dead, which you are, God cannot connect with you on a relational level. You guys have to stick. You guys have to have a connection line. The connection line you have with God is dead. to die, but get through that physical realm in the sense of relationship, in the sense of being one with him, in a relational meaning.
Use this lady named Gail, and she says something along the lines that atheism isn't the best term to use because it implies that you can prove that there is no God, and you should say agnostic instead. Well, first of all, I don't really think that that's what atheism means. Atheism is just the lack of a belief in God.
Atheist is a Greek word, atheos. Atheos either is argued to denote deism or heathenism, to be without God, to be a sinner, or to be a deist, have a belief in a non-personal God. It doesn't mean a lack of belief in God. An agnostic, which she got to reference, means to be without gnosis, which is knowledge, and gnostic, which is without knowledge. It's basically an insult if you call yourself an agnostic. If we want to go on definitions, then what is argued to make the definition? Is it the origin? I mean, that's a whole argument. How do we define words? Do we define it over time or define it by the origin? That's the argument to have. Does the origin have meaning to the definition of the word? I would say yes.
I think we say that's more correct.
Because the origin of a belief had meaning to what that belief is of. Like if a belief is pagan, it's of paganism, right?
But in my mind, it's kind of ridiculous to have to say that because I'm agnostic about anything that's supernatural that can't be proved. The burden of proof is not on us, it's on them. I'm agnostic about fairies, I'm agnostic about leprechauns, but I'm not going to sit there and say I'm agnostic. I'm going to say, no, I don't believe that those things exist. At a minute and 20, he puts up a...
So you don't know if they exist, we don't believe they exist. So you're claiming certainty in the realm of uncertainty. That's a contradiction, isn't it?
Claiming that evolution is dinosaurs turning into birds, apes into humans, and amphibious mammals into whales.
That's kind of untruthful, isn't it?
So I follow Richard Dawkins on Twitter, and he said a few things like this. One says, I've actually read a tweet by somebody who thinks a monkey needs to give birth to a human in order to demonstrate evolution. Seriously. It's not something that can just happen like that.
And over time. That's more like begging the question. That's more like, what you do is you examine evidence, say, of fossils, and you say, well, since the fossils look familiar to another animal, or since the fossils seem like be changing, that mammals seem to be changing and adapting or having different codes of anatomy, then you say, well, that's evolution. No, I can argue that to be a different form of adaptivity and speciation and microevolution, as it's called, over time, and not macro. Evolution is not science; it's a philosophy. I can argue. Philosophical arguments or responses against a lot of points, with every point of evolution. Evolution is in fact a pagan philosophy, and I'm going to go into that on the up-and-coming video. I want to show you guys the pagan roots of atheism. It's non-theistic atheism, a non-theistic paganism, evolution, Big Bang, and the eternal universe. And that basically, I'm going to actually more a factual exposing. Unlike Zeitgeist, they use an unfactual, unactual foundation, so-called exposing or addressing of Jesus and all this, because it's all a fraud. They don't have the original sources, like the Egyptian writing of the dead, say different stories and has different stories and a different take on those gods that don't include crucifixion or resurrection, but rather reincarnation or a virgin birth. Like Mithra was birthed out of a rock; she didn't rise again. Dionysus is said to be torn out by men and then reincarnated, not rose again. We don't know. necessarily know what happened to Horus. He didn't rise again. And he wasn't virgin birthed. So again, Zeitgeist is a fraud and has no... I'm actually going to try to make more a factual basis and exposing atheism and the beliefs that go along with it, and naturalism as actually pagan historical philosophies, and not use a cheap shot or a cop-out and a faulty argument like Zeitgeist was. That was horrible. And in fact, JaclynGlenn is one of those that uses Zeitgeist, which is a laughable argument, a laughable response to Jesus. You are better to use you are better to question the resurrection than you are to use Zeitgeist. And everybody says, well, nah, Jesus was a conspiracy. All these writings were all a conspiracy. You can say that about anything. You can say all about Abraham Lincoln and the paintings and all the quotes were all written by men over time to create a persona known as Abraham Lincoln to make it seem like slavery ended, when in actuality it just dumbed down and it's more prevalent in other countries. You can say about anything. So claiming the conspiracy case is really begging the question, which is a fallacy. What is begging the question? It's examining arguments and making an assumption without supporting evidence to back up that assumption. And evolution is full of that. It's a fallacy. I need to, and I notice theology is different than philosophy, so I need to watch out and not use fallacies myself in my argumentation. But theology is different. Theology is a spiritual thing, so I'm just a natural mind. But that doesn't mean I can't explain God in more of a philosophical sense where you can understand it. And plus, to really understand God, you need to have the Spirit of God. But this is hopefully you can understand my response.
Transition from apes to humans is probably something that took around 5.
And Romans 1 indicates that you know he exists. Let me demonstrate to you, Jack. Let me demonstrate to you. Philosophically, philosophers know that chemicals cannot produce truth. Like Degrassi said, is the only thing I know is I can't know anything. Chemicals do not randomly, chaotically evolved chemicals do not have a designed left and right foundation for true and false, right or wrong. You do not, in the naturalistic worldview, have a logical, solid ground for absolute morality or absolute truth. Chemicals that said to produce your thoughts in psychiatry do not produce truth, so that very ideology and thought process is not true. Doesn't have a basis for truth. This is not just an argument of silence. This means that you don't have the faculties to have truth. Thus, you can't make a truth claim. Thus, the only really way to have a foundation for absolute morality, absolute truth, is to have a deity. And why are the other religions? Well, the other religions actually come from paganism and actually are philosophically fallacious. Allah can forgive sins without a bail, a judicial basis to forgive sins. That makes him not superior according to the unjustices and according to the cop-outs of man dealing with the perspective of justice. He's not superior above all men in his justice, so he doesn't line up to be a supreme being, a god. All the other beings are basically the pagan beings, the beings of Native Americans, are basically all about money and emotions and filling desires. They're not really gods. They're really just spiritualized persons that you can use to lean on to fulfill your own emotions, your own desires, and to like often your children so you can get prosperity. So it's not that none of them are actually gods in a strict sense of being a god. They're really just spiritualized persons that people use to cling on to fulfill their emotions. So none of these other gods, polytheism, logically can only be one god. Come out the divine supreme being that's above all man, that's beyond man in all aspects of love, justice, and long suffering. There only be one. Because we have, in a natural sense, a government of a backing where gods, small g, rulers and authority. And so we have that in our natural sense. So to be above that, God would have to be in himself the one ruler. I mean, all the other gods that are said to be one with creation that came into existence, that were created, thus they are not supreme beings, but they are the same or etymological substance as other beings like us. They are not gods. They came into existence. That brings the question of who brought them into existence. So they are not gods. They are not initially creators of creation, but they are simply spiritualized persons, created beings. But God, the Most High God, is said to be the creator of all things, not to be brought into creation, but be eternal. But to be eternal, always existed. So he's above the finite limitations of mankind, so thus he more fits in all these ways the characteristics of being a god. So logically, there can be more. So we can debunk all the other gods. The other gods are mostly spiritualized entities to make man feel better about his intelligence and his limitations and his emotions and desires. But God, the Most High God, says deny yourself. The Most High God goes beyond that. So he is just more of the definition of being God, rather than other monotheistic, especially polytheistic gods, which are fallacious. But hopefully I can expound on that some other time.
5 to 6 million years. Now, this guy even harasses a girl on the street at about 5 minutes in about koalas. She says something like,
and unlike all the other polytheistic religions, they demonstrate that they are fallacious philosophically. We can say they're not really gods, they came into existence. They didn't create all things, they came into existence. And they present a problem of an infinite problem. So they're not really supreme beings, they're actually low beings, which are just spiritualized persons in the sense of who we are living in. But all the other polytheistic stuff is based more on belief system rather than fact. When Christianity is based on history and philosophy and people having encounters and healings and actual deliverance, and not the prosperity garbage and the word of faith God, but actual healing and deliverance. Like, I've gotten prayer during the time. I've gotten prayer and I've gotten deliverance. Like, deliverance is real. God is real. God does do miracles. And if you want to go into the question of why does bad things happen? Why doesn't it heal other people? I go into that answer. I can give you reasons. One, to test you, whether he doesn't stoop down to your level. Like, you're not his master. One, to see whether you're going to serve him and stay with him based on your love for him and not do for me and I'll do for you, not selfishness. Two is because he wants to use your infirmity or use your sickness to give you experience to help other people with those sicknesses. Three, generational curses. There's a spiritual law, and God is just. God cannot violate spiritual law, only if he has an actual basis and purpose and meaning in which he does by bail and by a sacrifice of his son, availability of the sacrifice of his son to break that spiritual curse. So, so to test if you're going to depart from him, if he doesn't heal you or not, there's reasons why he lets bad things happen, or why he heals other people and doesn't heal the other person. They don't have a pure heart. He doesn't will to use them in that way, but he wants to test their faith to see if they love him or if they just love themselves. There's more than one reason. I've done videos responding to that. I've done why did God made us and so on.
There's evidence of evolution.
I played a brother responding to that, and I did a video responding even in the description below. I responded to why did God let bad things happen.
From us, from monkeys or something like that, because there's an opposable fifth digit, and they're the only other ones that have that. And he's like, well, koalas have a fifth digit. Do you think we evolved from them? No, I don't think we evolved from them. Just like I don't think we evolved from modern day monkeys. It's ancestral. They're our cousins. They're distant relatives. No one thinks that one day a human fell out of a monkey's vagina. Now, I understand what the human mind is capable of visualizing becomes more and more difficult the longer the time span is that you have to consider. But just because you can't see it happening, just because you can't observe the millions and millions of years it takes for these things to happen, doesn't mean...
Again, in the naturalistic worldview, in that worldview, we don't have any basis for truth. So we couldn't know if it happened. You don't even know if you're in a matrix or not. You don't even know. You don't know if you're in a vac. You don't have a basis for absolute truth or knowledge. It's not the fact that the lack of evidence. You don't have the conditions to hold evidence as an atheist or as a naturalist, as a naturalist evolutionist. And plus, in regards to the naturalistic philosophy that goes along with naturalistic evolution, called evolutionary determinism, we're all inside of the same realm, the same construct of determination. Thus, you can only verify reality outside of your own reality. Thus, we don't have any truth in the naturalistic, deterministic worldview of naturalistic evolution. Like Stephen Hawking is said that he did a lecture on evolutionary determinism. The only thing he doesn't know, only he doesn't know is what is going to happen next. So, evolution doesn't have a real purpose or meaning to life or meaning to suffering. But unlike God, if God does allow bad things to happen, he has a meaning to it. There's a reason to it. You don't have one. It's a meaningless evil. Okay? There's actually, the only meaning you have will evolve that way. Natural selection, survival of the fittest. This is actually what it teaches. Natural selection selects on the strength, intelligence, weaknesses, and limitations of another, so another mechanism can reap, let's say, the benefits or the dominance or the control over that situation or being. That can be, I'll give you it. Natural rape, murder is all natural selection. Just part of evolution. No meaning to life. You know? So, and you know you have meaning in life. You know you have truth and knowledge and right and wrong. But your worldview, you can't hold it because your worldview is false. You know God is real. I can prove that philosophically. That you know God is real. You know that right and wrong and morality and good and meaning exist. Why do people kill themselves out without feeling they have meaning? Because they know the very existence is meaningful. Without that purpose to exist, because there's a purpose to your existence, what is there to exist for them? Because they know, you know too. Don't deny it.
And maybe there isn't 100% proof, but science is still working on that. You can't just say, I don't know. So
science is working on something which they have no naturalistic science is working on something in which they don't have conditions. to make conclusions. It's the fact they don't have the capabilities to make evidence or to conclude evidence. It's the fact that evolution and naturalism is one big philosophical fallacy. They can't have evidence. We can't have such thing as evidence in the evolutionary worldview. So there's no such thing as absolute evidence or absolute truth in your worldview. At best, you can have evidence, but you can't be for sure. We can't be for anything. You don't know if you're honest with yourself, you're in the Matrix or not right now. So it's one big fallacy.
Therefore God. But my point is even though you can't see direct proof of every single little tiny detail, that doesn't.
And just because you can't see that God has meaning and purpose, and in your mind, and because you can't see Him, doesn't mean He doesn't exist either. The question is, since you use the same criteria to go against God being real, but you won't use, even though the evolution has the same conditions to be questioned, you won't use the same criteria to question evolution. You want evolution because you don't want God, because you want your sin. You find some thoughts and you choose those questions because maybe if you can cover the existence and reality of God, you can feel comfortable in your sin. You can make yourself think you won't go to hell. The problem is, and I don't want this to happen, you will see hellfire. It does exist. You know, if you did commit a crime, you know there must be justice. You already see that sociologically. You already see that. There must be justice. I'm telling you, you committed a crime. You sinned against the eternal God with eternal virtue in an eternal realm, thus equals and logically concludes an eternal, everlasting, never-ending punishment. So no, it's just, and it'd be unjust if He did not judge you eternally. That, especially with the concept of you sinning continuously, blaspheming in the lake of fire. So more sin, continual sin equals you have to be judged even more. So the punishment could never end. So justly, He'd be unjust if those were the conditions to justify you. If you're going to be continuing, if you sin against the eternal God, which is Him, the eternal realm, with eternal virtue, and you're constantly sinning within your punishment. Thus means you have to be continually punished. Thus means justly the punishment can't end. So yeah. I say, how can an all-loving God, again, He's not all-loving. How can a loving God send somebody to hell? Because He's just. We must define what love is. Love is not the emotional love. Love sticks in the realm of truth, justice, righteousness, realities you know exist, separation from evil, and so on. And in God's eyes, you are wicked. You're
doesn't mean that there isn't a huge mountain of evidence in support of it. So you can't treat it like it's this completely faith-based system with no reason, no logic, and no evidence. That's what he does anyways, because at about 1 minute and 55 seconds into this stupid video, he goes around to people and starts posing the question about evolution. When did you start to believe? Are you a strong believer in evolution? So then he starts demanding real hard, observable evidence, and he goes around and finds this scientist and asks him to produce that. And he starts to explain it by saying, well, about 65 million years ago, and gets cut off my comfort and says, well, it was 65 million years ago, can't see it. So let me get this straight. They're using the I can't see it, so it ain't fair argument for evolutionary processes that, like I said, have a mountain of evidence. But God? That shit's real. So he thinks that if theory A fails in some particular detail, then theory B must be true.
one, even though that is a fallacy and I wouldn't use it, now I really wouldn't use it. Now I really know I wouldn't use it. I wouldn't use that there's a lack of evidence, therefore it's not true. That's not logical. Again, my attack was you don't have the conditions to claim it's true. And even though we know there's such thing as truth, whether you deny it or not, so that means that evolution would be not true based on logic, reasoning, and actuality. Not in the fact that it lacks evidence. But it's quite logical to conclude a God which tells you he's invisible, tells you he's a spiritual being, he's invisible, he's in another realm, who has an intelligence in of himself, he's intelligent, right? To believe in a purposeless, non-intelligent, random, evolutionary, on basis to conclude truth, evolutionary process. Plus, add the determination on that, it makes it hard.
But I love it how the argument or that train of thought isn't reversed at all. So by his train of thought, we could say, have you ever seen a toddler, a little girl who goes to sleep and wakes up the next day a full-grown woman? No, you haven't? Well, that's proof that aging doesn't exist. Evolution on a large scale requires many, many years to happen, just like aging. It's not that hard of a concept.
Takes many, many years to happen, just like aging. Let's see if I can attack it in another angle. You wouldn't believe that if I told you, hey, what? Because we can't see that. What if I told you I can kiss a cat and the cat will turn into a dog? Just wait a million years. You wouldn't believe that. It's basically a bunch of mysticism which you're teaching. It's a bunch of paganism, earth worship. It's paganism. What you are spewing. And see, I heard there's a DNA barrier. We can't naturally just change into something that is not in our chromosomal DNA complex. There's a barrier, there's a limit. Without at least some artificial man modification. It just doesn't happen. It's not again, there could be a scientific argument, just like I just said, to be brought against that as well, but philosophically, again, it presents you with a problem. It's best a mysticism which leaves you not really have to claim solipsism. But you really can't know anything, because chemicals cannot be true. You're just a biological product. And within your biology, I asked a science teacher. I use a fallacy of 40. But just listen to what he said. I asked the science teacher, is there any chemical, you could have, is there any chemical that produces absolute truth? Or that produces truth? No. You don't have, even if you did, you don't have a basis to have truth in your chemical world. You're just random. You're chaotic. You're not designed and purpose to have truth and meaning. You're just here to waste away. That's what you are. So,
4 minutes in,
you're here to be here and to waste away, I should say it. Forgive me.
Demanding evidence for a change of kinds. Well, fortunately, the Bible defined this for us. Two animals that can bring forth or reproduce. So he wants to see evolution from one animal to another animal that can't interbreed. Well, there's something called ring species that explains this perfectly. A ring species is when a parent population radiates around some kind of central barrier, and by the time the descendants meet on opposite sides, they have changed way too much to reproduce. So I'm definitely not an artist, so I'm going to simplify this as much as I can, but there is a bird out there called the greenish warbler, and this exact thing happened. I'm just going to start off with the circle to show you how it changes. When the bird goes to a different geographical location, it evolves, it has different traits and characteristics, and it's slightly...
No, the adaptation, well, you're arguing adaptation and speciation. You're not arguing macroevolution. There's not evidence for it. And that's not my basis to dismiss, that's not my basis in the video to dismiss evolution, because the evidence is illogical and there's lacking evidence. but the fact that it is philosophically fallacious to believe in it.
Its ancestor. Then it can go on further to change even more. And those two can interbreed. The same thing can happen on a completely different geographical location, and we have different birds that are still technically considered of the same kind. But the error comes whenever you take the end product of each different evolutionary outcome and put them together. Guess what? They can't interbreed, therefore they have technically changed kinds. So each neighboring bird can still interbreed, but each line has evolved so.
They're still birds, right? They're still the same kind. Not macroevolution. Listen, you do believe, listen, everything wasn't a dog. It all started from a single-celled organism, which wasn't a dog, and which logically only produced a single-celled organism, but you think begins to produce, none of it is in of itself a dog, a cat, everything we see today, and that's just fallacious. And that's, so, it's illogical, and the philosophical capabilities to have truth and knowledge are just not there in that worldview. It's not true. It's more, it's probably more, it's very foolish. The Bible wasn't being, it's the fool really says in his heart there is no God. But when you say in his heart there is no God, you have no basis for understanding or knowledge or truth or morality. You are honestly a fool. Like, polytheists can be argued, I mean, some of them at least, be more, have a more basis. No, I could go after them. More, I mean, you understand. Atheism is one of the most foolish ideology that exists. And since of a worldview, it's very stupid.
So much and become so different from their ancestor that the neighboring species can't bring forth or interbreed. Therefore, like I said, they've changed kinds. You also see the same thing with salamanders in California. By the time you get to the end of the evolutionary product, you take that one and put it to the beginning, and they cannot interbreed because they're so genetically different. Listen, in the real world, evolution does not produce organisms that are...
Well, we covered, and my argument is, naturalistic evolutionary worldview doesn't have the conditions to conclude knowledge and stuff sociologically, and obviously we know that exists, so it doesn't align with reality, thus it's not true.
Easily divided or separated into little boxes that aren't mixed together. It's a gradation. It's a slow change from one organism to another. It takes a long time. So there you go. There is an observable change of kind for you, Ray Comfort. It's observable. It's been...
No, it's not. To a still bird. It's adaptation or speciation. It's not. It's not a different kind. Show me a bird turning into a cat. Show me a rock. This is what you have in the basic origin of evolution. You have this kind of activity happening. Single-celled organism producing things that are not the essence of single-celled organism. And logically, we can see today, it would produce a single-celled organism would produce a single-celled organism, and not a cat. So over time. Doesn't matter what's over time. It just doesn't. It's not logical. And even go back to my core argument. It's philosophically fallacious. It's a fallacy.
Proven. There's tons of evidence for it. If you want to see something on a larger scale, that is going to require more time. And just because I can't show you millions and millions of years doesn't mean it didn't happen, and it doesn't mean that there isn't a ton of evidence supporting the fact that it did. But let's just say that's not good enough for you.
You don't have the criteria to claim evidence.
That's not enough evidence. Well, fortunately, there's a lot more evidence out there, and it's called molecular genetics. Like I talked about before, we are related as cousins to a...
So the conclusion there would be like, since we have similar DNA, which could arguably be the designer claded up with similar DNA, because we have similar structure of face and hands. So we have similar chromosome or DNA. Because we are similar, in structure, not that we evolve one another. You can't conclude that since an engine or a car is similar to a Honda vehicle and a Ford vehicle are similar to another, that they necessarily all originated from the same company. But they had a similar ideology. They didn't necessarily go back to the same company. So it's not necessarily logical to conclude this conclusion.
Chimpanzee, who parted about
as an absolute. You only know
6 million years ago from a common ancestor, and fortunately science has been able to completely sequence the genome of both the human and the chimpanzee. Almost all the sequences are identical, a very tiny number.
Yeah, because we have identical structures, right? We have an identical anatomy. We have a identical anatomy. We are identically created. We have some things that are different about us. But when it comes to hands and so on, we have similarities.
Number of genotypical differences can account for the large number of phenotypical differences. And by phenotype, I mean things that we can see or what we look like. And many genomes have been sequenced. We can draw clear conclusions to our relation to other species and the relation between other species.
Fallacy of association. You're begging the question. Again, because we've been created by the same designer, thus he gives a pattern that connects all of us, or connects us, to conclude that we have the same pattern, thus will lead to the same designer. It's a form of a parabolic, a form of a parabolic, how to say the word? A form of a more clear parable to mankind that leads us to the one creator.
That's not enough. They want more evidence. They want to see the fossils. They want to see the missing link. Well, unfortunately, a very small number of corpses actually fossilize and are preserved. We don't even need that. We could easily have had no fossils at all, and the evidence from molecular genetics and geographical location.
Again, I just said there wasn't really good evidence. That was just philosophy. You just examined evidence, and you made an assumption. You more begged the question, and again, it's just a battle of philosophy. What you just did. I gave a philosophical conclusion. You gave a philosophical conclusion. It's more logical to assert the creator that had the basis for actualities other than evolution, naturalistic evolution, which doesn't have a basis for actualities we know exists.
What's still overwhelming?
If you want to say, well, we don't know that, then that's another discussion.
Support the theory of evolution, but if that's still not enough, consider this: if even one fossil, were found in the wrong geographical stratum, if it were found in the wrong place, the entire theory would just be blown out of the water. It would be entirely disproved by locating one fossil in the wrong place. Evolution could be destroyed overnight. It's so easy to disprove, but no one has been able to do it. And then at about 14 minutes, he goes completely bonkers and loses his mind. He goes up to different people and says, well, make me a rose. He wants them to go, poof, here's a rose. And then when they say, oh, I can't do that, he goes, well, it's evidence for intelligent design.
Actually, there has been it seems to be looking like dinosaurs with man, which doesn't go along with the evolutionary, at least mainstream theory or ideology. So there has been that kind of evidence found. So, and there has been, at least what can be concluded, tissue which wouldn't exist in millions of years, or more like thousands of years, within dinosaur bones. Now, someone say, well, we don't really know that, but it can be argued. So there has been that kind of a basis, that kind of a existing conclusion within existing substances that do exist, that can be concluded.
You'd be able to make it right here, right now. But anything you answered to this guy at this point would be a lose-lose situation, because you could either say, well, I could do it with a seed and wait for the flower to grow, Or, you know, you could bring up the fact that we've cloned entire animals in laboratories and made our own animals. But then again, he did say, well, where would you get the seed? And if you brought up cloning, he'd probably be like, where did you get the genetic information to make the clone?
Well, to answer this, I'll have to explain how you can get something from nothing, which I'll do in a second.
Let's just go with his argument for a second. Let's give him the benefit.
Oh, she's going to explain that. That's logically a fallacy.
Let's say that somebody could snap their fingers and make a rose appear. But that wouldn't work because then he would use the same logic he did with the banana. Well, God still gave people the ability to make such things. Therefore, it's still proof of God. And now we're going to get into the origin.
At least God giving it versus chemicals which don't have the ability to give it makes more logical sense than chemicals given intelligence, which chemicals cannot give an actual basis for intelligence and truth. And it makes more sense for a God that has actually the ability and the basis to do it, rather than a baseless, baseless worldview given it.
Of everything ever, something from nothing, and this is something that I wanted to talk about a long time ago, but I never made the video because it would take me forever. So I'm going to try to explain it as quickly and as simply as I possibly can. Physicists are still working on the origin of the cosmos, one of which is Lawrence Krauss. He has a book out that I recommend anyone.
And I don't have perfect speech, but so just to say that.
Who actually wants the finer details. But the most simplified explanation I can give is that when you have matter,
if I need to slow down and use different words, then I will.
And antimatter, and you put them together, they cancel each other out, leading to nothing. Krauss is suggesting that you can start with nothing and reverse that process, making matter and antimatter. Now, like I said, this is something that's still being heavily researched and worked on.
So where did that matter come from? You say matter can't be created or destroyed. That is an assumption. You're assuming the matter that exists wasn't created like that to give symbology to loop back to the eternal creator. It's an assumption. This is an assumption. And so where does this matter come from? How do you know the criteria of matter that exists was always here or brought into existence? How do you know? It's all an assumption. I'm always begging it's philosophy again.
I'm not a physicist, so if you want more details, I'd suggest to get this book if you want more of an explanation. But what I can say is claiming that God did it is not a better explanation. Even if it were, it'd be a much more difficult explanation.
No, it's quite easy.
Creationism brings up all these different questions of God's existence. Now this brings up the typical God of the gap strategy. Creationists eagerly seek a gap in present-day knowledge or understanding, and if an apparent gap is found, it's assumed that God by default.
No, I make the case that for anything we see, truth, knowledge, there must be a God, not the gap thing.
Must fill it, but gaps shrink as science advances, and God is threatened with eventually having nothing to do and nowhere to hide. But science...
No, because your science has a baseless structure, a baseless foundation. So your foundation, you have no foundation. All you have is a structure with a house with no foundation.
The scientists aren't really concerned with this, okay? Because ignorance is what motivates them. Ignorance is what drives them on to search for what the real answers are. And in my opinion, one of the truly bad effects of religion is that it teaches us that it's a virtue to be satisfied with not understanding. And again, you see the unwarranted use of the default. If there's no fossil document to a postulated evolutionary transition, the default assumption is that there was no evolutionary transition. Therefore, God must have intervened. So these people who leap from a personal bafflement at a natural phenomenon to just knowing that it was something supernatural are no better than the people who are out on the streets who see somebody doing a magic trick and just know that it's paranormal. In about 22 minutes, we get into morality. He brings up evolution and says that it's an immoral process. Okay, nature is harsh, nature is cruel, but it has nothing to do with morality. But no, you've got Ray Comfort who draws the extremely illogical conclusion that Hitler was putting survival of the fittest into effect. Evolution is a biological process.
Then where do you get morality from? If evolution doesn't... let's just throw evolutionary determinism out of the window. Where in your structure of your being do you get absolute morality from? You're just chemicals and cytoplasm, in which has no basis for absolute morality. Evolution which does give us our basis of being, gives us a basis for procreation and survival. The basics, because we're animals, according to them. So, there's no truth there. You don't know anything, really.
Okay? Not a
You cannot. You cannot.
While we're at it, why don't we just all sit in a circle and talk about the morality of the tsunami? So then he walks around and starts questioning all these people's morality and brings up blasphemy. That's right. He tries to make atheists feel bad about blasphemy, and I thought that was kind of hilarious. And of course, he reverts to scare tactics. He walks up to people and be like, see how sinful you are? I'd hate for you to end up in hell. And I even wrote down what he said. At about 26 and a half minutes, he goes, a good judge must see that justice is done. So if you die and God gives you justice...
That's the truth. If God is real, and which He is, that means when you die, you will go to hell. And they're actually the basis for hell's existence outside the Bible. Philosophically, I'll take a philosophical basis, even though the scientific basis of the digging underground and plane screams has been attacked. I'll do a more philosophical and medical basis rather than a scientific basis to argue it in this video.
Because he's holy and perfect morally, you'd end up in hell, and I'd hate to see that happen to you. At 27 minutes and 10 seconds, he goes to people and says, you're only atheist because it erases all of your moral accountability, which is something that can obviously only be found in the Bible, right? I don't think so. If you take a look at Leviticus 20:13, it says homosexuals must be put to death. Must. And I don't want to hear any of that nonsense about not accepting part of the Old Testament, because guess what? Ray Comfort even verifies all the Bible later on in the video at about 30 minutes and 45 seconds.
So what is wrong about homosexuality? What is wrong in your worldview about a homosexual being put to death? Let me give you more of a basis for that. Homosexuals, statistically, they are vessels of self-destruction, and they are if the activity and lifestyle spreads, they are a vessel of social and existence destruction of existence, because they can't procreate. So it's a lifestyle of death. So they are destruction. So it is more better in your worldview to exterminate them, like eugenics, which has been practiced. People of your naturalistic, I'll say occult worldview have, at least ancient history, people of atheistic worldview have practiced eugenics, which would be sterilizing retarded people, disabled people, and homosexuals as well. So what's wrong about that? Tell me, and give me a basis for it.
No mistakes anywhere in the Bible. And after all this complaining, after all this whining about not enough evidence, at about 28 minutes, he does this. Y'all want to know what really happened? It's the real truth. That's for real. Well, that invisible man in the sky made a baby with the human version.
He's not a man in the sky.
About 2,000 years ago.
He's a spirit in the spiritual realm.
Which means...
And if you say, well, you use the argument of silence again.
God became human, and then God killed his son on a cross. I mean, he killed himself on a cross, therefore taking the punishment for the sins of the human race. That, by the way, he created his own perfect way. So therefore, Jesus paid your fee, and God can legally dismiss your case. But you gotta believe in him, otherwise hell. Make sense?
No, you gotta repent you gotta repent. If you keep sinning, you're gonna go to hell. God does judge you for unbelief, for lack of not trusting, and lack of connecting with the truth, connecting and receiving the truth through revelation and through transformation. Yeah, he does it. The basis of sin is unbelief. You can't be fully aware of God and hold on to the truth and not yield to the lie and yield on lust and sin. So yeah, Satan yielded to a lie. That's how he sinned.
Then he uses insane editing to make these people look incredibly stupid, which is something that's just never been done before. I mean, it's just such dishonest editing. I could go out and ask 100 people a moderately difficult math question and make them all look like complete idiots. And guess what? That doesn't mean that math doesn't work. And then he ends with this.
How do you know math is not just a product of a matrix or on a matrix? How do you know that?
Famous quote quote, "For although they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks to him, but they became futile in their thinking, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools." I'm sorry, but you can't use the Bible as a reference to the validity of your religion, okay? So
the word religion means to bond. It means bondage. But Jesus came to transform your heart to make you aligned with the truth and not bound to keep out of fear and out of search for validation, but actually you are aligned with his nature. Thus you keep it.
your particular holy book states
There is a temptation there still, but I'm more aligned to go with God. Because I love God, you see?
that anybody who doesn't believe in it must be a fool.
Which is given by God, not by someone who taught me.
You got me, I totally believe it now. So yeah, this became a very long video, but I wanted to give you as much evidence and explain as much as I possibly could the scientific background behind evolution, behind the origin of species, behind the origin of possibly the universe, and say, yeah, science doesn't have the answer for everything, but they're still working.
So knowledge doesn't have I don't go into that word.
On it. They see gaps.
I only went to with science. I'm not going to the other word what you're actually referring to.
Scientific processes, at least in the explanation of those processes, and that's motivation to work towards finding the answer. People who are religious people like Ray Comfort look at those gaps and just fill them with God. Like I said, you can't just do that. And you can't look at a banana and be like, look at this. Look at all the nature around us. That's proof. But then be so critical of all the legitimate research that scientists have done and say, that's not good enough, but just look at the trees. That's evidence enough for me and God. And I used to think the stupidity was funny. I thought it was great. I made videos on it and it was hilarious. But whenever you get to be to the level of Ray Comfort, it's not funny anymore, okay? It's just embarrassing and depressing. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I did my best to try to dispute every single one.
What's your basis of stupidity? What is stupid? How do you know we're in a world of opposites, and what's stupid is actually smart, and what's smart is actually stupid? How do you know that?
Points. Feel free to watch this video if you can.
I'm asking you a philosophical question. How do you know that? What's your basis for your understanding? The absolute basis.
If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, share it everywhere. All my social media links are in the description below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and let me know what you think in the comments below. Alright, see you guys next time. Bye.
Okay, guys, I have to get going. If anybody wants to join and talk, I'm going to do it live in the next 20 minutes or 30 minutes. Subscribe to the channel. I'll stay on the channel and wait, and we can do a discussion. So, guys, I'm going to go eat. Be blessed, guys. I love you guys in the name of Jesus Christ. Bye.